I was asked to speak about my experiences living in Monticello as a Black woman. So I will talk about walking onto my front porch and being called a brown nigger by a group of kids walking by. I will talk about the kids and adults that have more than once screamed nigger at me from a car as I was walking my dog. I can also talk about the older gentleman who approached me in the county market and asked where I was from. When he was unsatisfied of my reply of Tolono, he pressed, "No, I mean, what are you?" When he found out that I was African American and white, his disappointed response of, "Oh, I thought you might be something more exotic like Hawaiian," gave me pause. But I did not have time to dissect it as I was already running late. Besides, I didn't really want to have that conversation about my race with a complete stranger in a county market. I will also talk about the neighbors who have offered me a hand when I got myself in over my head on a gardening task, and friends who have continually invited and fed me at all of their Super Bowl games, despite the fact that I know nothing about football. Some of the questions that I would ask or some of the things I would say was, "Go see Eagles." And why don't they call it a cuddle instead of a huddle? And they kept their patience. I'll talk about the wonderful people in this town who pause whatever they're doing to wave at me or give my dog a treat while I'm out walking. All of these experiences and so many more are why I love Monticello and why I actively contribute to this town and make sure that it is a place that maintains a close-knit uniqueness while allowing for undeniable benefits that come with being open enough to truly welcome people of color. So what are some of the ways that this can be accomplished? First, listen to people of color. One of the greatest benefits of the modern age, in my opinion, is that every cell phone has a camera. The videos that you are seeing on Twitter and Facebook aren't new stories. If you are listening, the stories of discrimination and excessive force are stories that we have been telling you for decades. It is a shame that we had to provide video evidence before most white Americans began believing us. Listen to people of color. As I said, I believe that it is a shame that we had to provide video evidence before most of white America began to believe us. As someone that has tried to never shy away from sharing my story, you can imagine my surprise when one of my husband's childhood friends, a white man that I have known for 20 years, recently got on Facebook to report that everything seemed fine to him and that he didn't see any problem with how people of color were treated in this town. Really? This is a man that has sat at my table in my home as I recounted my experiences with racism in this town. Were you not listening? Or did you discount what I said because it was too uncomfortable for you to believe that these things could be happening in your own backyard? Remember, if you are sick of hearing about it, just imagine how sick we are of living it. And we deserve the benefit of the doubt. After you listen, talk. Talk to your family and friends and your children. I promise you, for however old your child is, they are learning about racism. They can learn their values from you, or they can learn them from someone else, but they are learning. Talk to elected officials, the school board, the sheriff, the police chief, and the superintendent. These are the people that we have entrusted to carry out the decisions that will determine the fate of our town. It is not enough to put a sign in your front yard that says you are inclusive. We must begin to demand inclusivity from our neighbors. This may sound trite, but people of color did not create racism.
Yes!
And cannot and should not be expected to independently dismantle the systemically racist power structure that have led to the anger you are seeing played out on Twitter. Ask the tough questions. Why, in our increasingly diverse community, are there so few people of color holding staff positions in our schools? If we agree that representation matters, then why don't the children of color see themselves reflected when they walk into their classrooms and down the halls of learning? Why is it that a town that has profited from housing incarcerated men and women of color in from other counties, why is it that these people have been historically overseen by white correctional officers? A practice that is uncomfortably close to slavery, in my opinion. Why is it that if I call for help, I am almost assured that the person with the badge will not be a person of color, but a white man? The continued accepted thinking that this is a white town is outdated and frankly behind the times. If we want people to begin to understand the value of diversity and that people of color are not a threat, we need to allow for the opportunity to see greater diversity in this community, working side by side with the people of this town to make it a better place. I don't want to leave you with the notion that if we fix the police system or our educational system that we have fixed the problem. I have worked with many of the officers and deputies in this town, and I can tell you from experience that they are amazing and wonderful men and women, and I quite literally trust them with my life. They are my friends, and I care very deeply for many of them. But this is not something that should be a luxury given to only me because I happen to have worked with them. No person of color should have fear of common everyday interactions with police. And that is why systemic racism needs to be addressed even in Monticello. It is not the people that need correction, it is the system. And where better to start than in our own backyard? Finally, I would like to leave you with this. Racism, both explicit and implicit, is fear. Fear of the unknown and fear of change. Fear of losing control and power in a world that already does its best to make each and every one of us feel powerless. And for those of you living in fear, I see you. But fear is stupid and it is a waste of time. It doesn't just destroy people of color and black communities. Yes, it may take our life, but it also degrades the fabric of our country. And as we are seeing, it robs the dignity and morality of white communities as well. It is truly all of our problem.